My mom couldn't get the top of the Tupperware off.
So I'm like, Mom, it's a plastic container, by the way.
Right, I know, but just squeeze the bottom and the top will pop off.
Yeah.
It's the same. Travis is laughing. You don't think it relates?
I mean, I get it, but I've never had trouble getting the lid off the Tupperware container before.
Well, give my mom a break.
The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media.
Hey guys, welcome to Actions Detrimental Daytona. Nighttime is the right time episode presented by our sponsor, Birch Goal Group. You can get a free kit on goal by texting Denny to 989898. I say nighttime was the right time because, boy, it was hot during the day there. Oh, my God. I made the team made a very bad decision. I think I was thinking in the afternoon. Turned out fine at night, but we chose not to run a cool shirt yesterday. And, that decision's got to be made pretty early in the week. You kind of look at the temperature. Well, it's going to be night, 80 degrees, no problem. It was no problem. But yeah, it was a bit steamy. I did set a new record for myself for weight loss.
You're doing the science experiment thing.
Yeah, I had 8 pounds lost from naked before the race to naked after the race. So that was a record for me. And so we finished that study. Basically, the University of Florida's measuring a couple guys throughout the year in different scenarios based off of outside temperature. Are you wearing a cool shirt? Are you not? They measure your heart rate. They measure your all kind of internals. They have you swallow a pill, wear kind of a chest strap, and they take data and they'll give us a kind of a. And they also put a salt patch on my arm just to kind of show us what's the best way for us to rehydrate. Are we a salty sweater or not? I'm really not. So I don't need to be taking in a bunch of junk. Really, water is sufficient.
Would a cool shirt affect any of those stats? Like, you would have lost 8 pounds regardless if you wore a cool shirt.
Yeah,
right?
From what I understand, the cool shirt reduces your inner core temperature by about 1.5 degrees. So not a ton, but some.
It would have made you a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I felt fine. I mean, I felt totally fine. It's it's just something about the daytime and humidity that really kind of, if it gets 90, really we kind of set the bar at about 90 plus that I'll wear the cool shirt. Anytime it's below that, I won't. It's just a little bit of weight in the car. I mean, car's 35 or 3,600 pounds now, whatever it is, it's just a couple pounds. So it's not a game changer, but we just like to get every advantage we can. But I don't know, probably doesn't do anything.
Before we got to racing, we had a big announcement. Kurt Busch officially has retired.
Yeah, I love it and I hate it for Kurt. Certainly he had his career cut shorter than what he wanted for sure. Really happy for him though to be able to announce this and kind of get the pressure of, are you going to come back? Are you going to come back off of his shoulders? He's been a great asset to 23XI. As you know, he's still been working with the team this year. He will be working with the team again next year. So we have him under contract still to be our, is it CF? No, Chief Fund Director?
Yeah,
Chief Fund Director.
CFO.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been a valuable asset. He's around the racetrack. You'll see him still here and there and interacting a lot with our Cup drivers. And he's just valuable because he's a great manager of races. He's the veteran that can help our young guys continue to help with their learning curve, and he sees things now from the outside perspective, so he can certainly be a valuable asset to not only them but to us as well. He can say, hey, I see this car doing that. We're so focused at 23XI, our engineers and our crew chiefs and our drivers on our cars, that sometimes you overlook other cars, and so he's checking out all that stuff. So
there was a funny moment before the race, standing on the grid. You were talking to Gabe Hart, and Kurt had come over, and he was kind of just standing there for a moment, waiting to get a moment. And then he turned to you, and both you and Chris put your hands out for a handshake. And obviously Kurt can only pick one of them, so he shakes Gabe Hart's hand, and you kind of just Oh, I was going here for the spoiler anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, you went out for a handshake.
He left me hanging?
He went to Chris, left you hanging, and you kind of just were like, well, I was going to go here for the spoiler anyway. Just kind of play it off.
Oh, man. Josh Herbst would have never done that to me.
Yeah.
Kurt, he chose Gabehart? Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So I have a picture of Kurt reaching his hand out and you and Gabehart are like this.
I got to see it. Yeah. I got to see it. Yeah, so that's cool. But we, it was I don't know. I guess I was wrong. I was wrong that I called for chaos, wrecks all over the place.
There's a couple.
I can tell you for 70% of that race, I sure was hoping for some wrecks. I'm sitting there riding in the back, just waiting on a caution, and it never comes.
It's become very predictable that you're going to run too wide for the majority of each stage, and then with 5 or so to go, guys are going to get a little more anxious, and that's when something's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point that I pulled out of the pack. I bailed on the pack because I was 3 wide bottom, and this is when the action was actually getting pretty dicey. It was 3 wide by 3 wide for a bunch of rows, and I'm trapped on the bottom, so I can't go anywhere. I'm not going to go forward. I can't go to the side. I got someone pushing me from behind, and that just is like, I don't have the track position I really want, so I'm just going to bail here and count on a wreck about to happen and eliminate myself from the odds of being in it. And it just never happened. And then we had a pit road penalty under green, which you just cannot have. And I then just watched the race for the rest of the race. I'm just in the back of the pack. Just, I can't get in the middle of it. I mean, it's just stupid. I did that one time. I thought that I'd be a hero and get my lap back naturally. Like up at Talladega, this is a couple years ago. It was the only laps I did not complete in 2021, I think it was. 20 or 21. It's when at Talladega, I went a lap down for I don't know. I might have sped on pit road. So I had a penalty, and I said, oh, that's fine. They want to give me a penalty? I'm going to get this back the hard way. I'm going to go through the pack. And I got to like 3rd or 4th place on position, and then I got wrecked. Yeah. So I went a couple laps down from there, and that was the only laps that we didn't complete that year.
I remember that because your quote after the race, Travis, you'll probably have to bleep this, but you're like, you did something stupid to go a lap down, but you're like, I'm just going to lay my on the table and get it back the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, it was not a good choice. So when you're a lap down on a speedway, it's silly for you to go up there and race, especially when I was on my own lap. I mean, you must have heard it on the radio a ton of times. You're on your own lap. We just need a caution, any caution. I'm like, surely these guys are going to wreck. I mean, and then they decided to go single file, for 30 of the last 40 laps. And I'm just thinking, are these guys really in 15th place thinking they're going to win the race from their position running single file? But they did get dicey, just no one wrecked.
And then you get a caution and you're in it.
Well, we finally got a caution, and of course the 45 had enough damage. He was so slow that he ended up getting the lucky dog right before I did. So it was uneventful for me. I was just a fan watching the race for most of the day. We did have a shot to win stage 1. We got through the pack pretty quickly. Started 19th. We got with our Toyota teammates pretty early, and we were all running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's like, wow, this is going right to script. The outside line at the end of stage 1 was coming on. Riley Herbst was leading it, and the inside lane was kind of getting jumbled up. Like tires are getting hot, and you're having to lift a little bit more, so the outside lane starts coming. Well, I'm looking, and it's a couple laps ago, coming to the white. I go ahead and pull up in front of Riley, and I certainly, on hindsight, it's like I had the 19 behind me. The best thing to do at that point was at least try to gain a point on him to keep myself in the battle. But I'm trying to go for the stage win.
Did you really think the top line was going to win the stage?
Well, they had just came from 10th on the outside and just picked off row after row after row, and finally on the white flag lap, they were up beside us. So
they had the momentum because Bell got separated from Truex, and that was the story. Was the third car, if it got too far back from the second, it lost the power, and that's what happened. The top lane was moving forward.
So I mean, again, it's hindsight, but ultimately I made the wrong decision trying to go up and block Riley versus, and then when he got shucked by the 4, I'm like, oh no, the top line's going to be dead. Like as soon as the 4 made the decision, well, I'm shucking Riley here. It's whatever row decides that they're not going to get disorganized or decides they're going to get disorganized, that line's going to be dead instantly.
Right, which always seemed like it was going to be the top line because you have the Toyotas in a row on the bottom. If you just park yourself in front of Truex, you're going to finish one spot in front of Truex.
Well, that's easy to say now, Jared, right?
I don't know.
You're right.
It's easy to say.
You're right.
2 to go.
I'll give it to you. You're right. I agree. I didn't even know if I was ever clear, and then I looked at the replay, and I was like, oh, 75% of the back straightaway, I was clear to pull down back in front of the 19. I just didn't.
I mean, my brain watching.
I mean, and you got to realize too, from my perspective, I'm mirror driving, right? I'm straight up just looking up or looking at my camera, trying to follow the 36 and stay in front of him because I hear that the top line's got a huge run off of 2. The bottom lane was still, separated but getting organized. Listen, this is like a yo-yo effect. If you get disorganized on the bottom because someone bobbles, eventually they all pack back up, and especially on the last lap. They're going to get more aggressive pushing. I just messed up and had a brain lapse of like the bottom lane, at least you can't go anywhere. Like if you're on the bottom line, there's no chance really for anyone to pull out. Like you've got the yellow line on the inside of you, so that's essentially like a wall. They can't go that way. And then they've got the top lane down on their door, so they can't go to the right. They can't go to the left, can't go to the right. The lapse of judgment surely should have stayed in front of the 19. Probably, would have won the stage, but we didn't. And, that pretty much at that point, I'm like, well, now, Truex gained 5 more points on me, and it's unattainable. So that's why I pulled out of the pack during that crazy moment, because I was like, well, now I just need to focus on trying to win the race versus trying to gain points on Truex, which is why I chose to give up track position during that middle stage.
Were you not concerned, besides not winning the stage, were you not concerned in those moments of your move going back to the top just being a little too late and then getting hooked and put in the fence?
There was a couple times. I don't know if I was clear. I think Riley maybe gave me a break there. I need to check that for sure.
It seemed, watching it in live
was I
time,
late?
It seems like you asked for a break a couple times.
Really?
I'm kind of at the mercy of what Rick Allen's saying on TV, and when he goes, "Oh, late block by Denny Hamlin," it's kind of what I
believe it. I believe it. Man, it's so quick. You got to be quick with those moves, and sometimes when you're indecisive, and what you'll do as a driver is if you're not sure, you'll go halfway up, and then see if that person's just still coming, or are they like. Did their momentum stop? If their momentum stopped, you're like, okay, I'm clear to go ahead and keep going. You're going to let me merge
here or not?
Exactly. You're going to let me in or not? But thanks to Riley. If he did cut me a break, thank you. I appreciate that. He was fast. He had a good run going. I don't know where he finished, but he was strong leading that outside line. It was pretty impressive, and they qualified super well as well. I wonder if that was the Stewart-Haas car or front row car.
36 wasn't it a front row car?
You can put a number on anything.
Then I don't know.
Right? I mean, it's just interesting to know. It qualified, honestly, when you think about it, it qualified like a Stewart-Haas car, right? Like where they qualified versus...
Well, nobody qualified like a front row car. McDowell was a way back
Yeah,
there.
I talked to him after, I don't know, sometime after qualifying before the race, and he was like, man, we want to check it out, but NASCAR won't let us. We got to present something that's broke, or we got to prove something is not right, but we don't know until we look at it, but they won't let us look at it. So I didn't see, this is confusing. I didn't see McDowell all day. Did he race okay?
Well, Riley finished 38th.
He got in a wreck.
Yeah.
McDowell, give me that.
13th.
Okay. How did Gilliland do?
32nd.
Oh, another wreck. All right. Yeah, so it seemed like his car must have been fine, but you didn't really see McDowell up front like you normally did. So maybe his car did have some issues that made it slower. He's usually always a guy that's going to be up front.
Yeah,
on the super speedway. So
in hindsight, great job by McDowell winning the Indy Road Course.
Oh, yeah. That was it. He had to have it, right? Had to have it, got it done. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? I know that's a bold question, but it's got that irresistible taste to back it up. Well, when you've got an irresistible match like zero sugar and 0 calories, something sensational is bound to happen. It's like when me and my co-host Jared team up to make a podcast. It's too bad you can't taste with your ears because Coke Zero Sugar tastes so amazing, it's hard to put it into words. But hey, that's my job, at least on Mondays. You have to taste it for yourself. Coke Zero Sugar, the best Coke ever. What else was interesting? We saw during a red flag, Keselowski doing donuts in the on the backstretch. First, I asked my crew chief. I said, "What is he doing? Isn't he? It's a red flag. Isn't he supposed to be stopped?"
That's what I'm wondering. Are you even allowed to?
I didn't think so. I don't think you're not supposed to be moving. Like, which is why they even say they don't even let you catch up to the field. So did they just kind of, hey, he might be on fire, so we're going to let this one go? But certainly by the letter of the law, Keselowski shouldn't have been moving. Even so, what they'll do is even when they throw a red flag, wherever you are, you stop. It's like, you ever seen sprint car races, right? Wherever they're at, they're just the red comes out. It's you hit the brakes and you stop in your position where you're at. I guess he thought he had something burning underneath. Even Alex Bowman, I think I heard him say that Keselowski, the underside was on fire. And what Keselowski said is that, hey, if I sat there, the fire was going to get worse. So I was just trying to dissipate it.
Yeah,
I guess what he could have done is just run through the grass. That would have killed it. That would have killed any fire right away.
He said the smoke was billowing. This is what he tweeted, by the way. The smoke was billowing fast around my feet. Knew I had to do something. The red in the ECU gets clearer with every second as the fire is going out and smoke dissipating.
Hold on, the ECU gets what?
Clearer?
What? How does he know that?
I don't know. What's ECU?
Well, that's a little thing that's on the dash. Maybe he saw smoke. Oh, okay. He said he saw smoke in the car. So he's looking at the light in the ECU probably, and it's getting clear, as in he's able to see
it better.
Yeah, I guess.
As the smoke dissipates.
Yeah, he said it came out of the left front rocker panel.
Okay. So did anyone actually put out the fire, or did it just die?
It just died on its own.
I think he
so many donuts.
Yeah, stop, drop, and roll in
Talladega Nights.
Effectively.
All right. Well, it was a winning move for RFK. So you can't hate on that. So we had that red flag that was a big one at the end of stage 2, where that was really the only major wreck that involved other cars, lots of other cars. Then at the end of the race, we saw the Preece incident where he made it was the most incredible barrel roll I've ever seen. I mean, I finally got to watch the replay as, again, I'm just in the back of the pack, not doing shit. It's under yellow, and I'm cruising around, and they start to play the replay on the big screen. And we used to have a big screen on the backstretch when we had stands there, and now there's 4 big screens starting from off turn 4 all the way into turn 1. So they start to play it, and so I'm driving, and I'm looking through the winning net, and I'm looking and seeing him turn and start to flip, and I'm like, oh wow, he got some good air. Oh, no. I mean, as soon as his car hit the grass, I don't think I've ever seen one have that many rotations in the air. I mean, not since
Larson's
a
wreck,
U.S.
right?
gymnast have I seen that many barrel rolls before making contact. Holy cow. I mean, we got news that Ryan's out of the hospital on his way to Charlotte now, so it seems like he's fine. He got a tweet from him last night, so I think he's going to be okay, so we can comment on it. But holy, that thing was violent. That was the most violent barrel roll I've ever seen. Usually, you've seen in the old days when the cars would barrel roll, it'd be a little bit slower. The car would dissipate more. His car really kind of stayed together, except for the roof hatch and the winning net. Yikes. Was he the one that was with the Kyle Larson big destroy Talladega? Remember when the door bars, and was he the one that power drove Larson?
Is there him or Buscher? I think it was Preece, right? I think it was Preece.
I feel like it was Preece and Larson. So Preece is essentially our crash test dummy for the next year.
Yeah, it was Preece. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Man, whew.
So he's
That
taking
was
2 good licks this year.
That was just an incredible visual wreck. I'm sure. I don't know. It's hard for me to put myself in that position to feel what he felt. And I was looking to see, like, he was very lucky to not, when he hit the ground each time that it would, so he would hit, the car grabbed, went up, started twisting. Well, then when it comes back down, you don't want it to land flat on anything. And he was very lucky that when the car made contact again for the second time to the ground, it was kind of like on the corner of the car, and it kept rolling. And then it twisted more. The next contact, again, kind of on the side of the car. So he never really had, and I don't want to downplay this, he never had one where, bam, it lands flat on the base of the wheels. He would have risked.
Like Bowman's injury, right?
Correct. He would have risked kind of a spinal compression fracture there if he would have landed dead flat on his wheels, especially with how rigid the bottom of these cars are. Once you've blown the tires out, these things are going to land flat on the stops, and it's going to be harsh. So luckily, it looked like all of his limbs stayed in the car. Nothing big came in the car, even though he was very, very exposed. We have to figure that one out. But man, this was a incredible wreck that NASCAR surely is going to diagnose in the R&D center to figure out what we can do better.
I'm curious. We see in wrecks like Blaney's, which I guess we'll get to shortly here, is that you hit the wall, your body goes forward, right? Does your body move up and down in the car at all? Because he didn't land flat on his wheels, but he did land pretty flat on the roof. So, like, is there any movement where, like, your head could hit the ceiling?
Yeah, but let's just say you land on your roof, right? There's enough stretch in your belt that, everyone's pulled tight.
Right.
But it's not a limiting factor. You still have some compression to go up, right? You have a way to go up.
Is there ever any worry that if you were to land flush on your roof, that your head is hitting the top of whatever? In this case,
yeah. I mean, the halo bar where the winning net is, for some odd reason, was designed. It's closer to the driver's head than what our previous car was. It's more sturdy, but it's without a doubt it's closer to our head. You can't argue that fact. I don't know how that bar responded to this wreck. I need to look at more pictures of it, and I'm sure we'll get to see that. But yeah, there's a concern. Absolutely. Your head, I know when I put on my helmet, I have to be very careful not to unlatch the roof hatch. So it's close. I did it during the test at Charlotte, one of the very first next-gen tests. I put my helmet on, and so I leave my helmet and my Hans connected together. I don't put them on separately.
Yep.
I put the Hans over the back of my neck, and when I did that, it unlatched the hatch, and the hatch blew off the first lap of testing.
So
I noticed, I was like, man, it's sunny in here. Like I had a moonroof. It came right out. It was, I mean, let me tell you, that hatch is not, I mean,
does that mean
it is not rigid?
Does that mean there's a chance that on this first, I'm watching the crash back on Twitter, that on this first impact when he lands on the roof, that he does unhook it and that's why it flies off?
No, I think more than likely the compression, when the top of the car started crushing, you know what? This is like the Tupperware. Remember the top of the Tupperware? When my mom couldn't get the top of the Tupperware off. So I'm like, Mom,
it's a plastic container, by the way.
Right, I know, but just squeeze the bottom and the top will pop off.
Yeah.
It's the same. Travis is laughing. You don't think it relates?
I mean, I get it, but I've never had trouble getting the lid off the Tupperware container before.
Well, give my mom a break. She had a very tough time. She's like, and she's in the motorhome. She's like, look at this trick Denny taught me. You just got to squeeze the bottom.
Well, you're leaving out a very crucial part of the story.
What?
Is that, yes, this did happen. She was like, look at this trick that Denny taught me. And then she squeezes it, and the top does not pop off. And she has to pry it off, and it's like, well, Denny was wrong again.
Well,
that's the story.
That Tupperware in particular was... So it was in the one where... I'm sorry, that it doesn't have a tab on the outside of the Tupperware. We're getting so off track, but I need to be clear on this. It's the Tupperware where the top insets into the Tupperware. So there's very little tab, right? It's like the seal is on the inside, not on the outside.
Yeah, if you go to Publix and buy
just squeeze it,
fruit,
boom, pops off.
Yeah.
That's what happened, I think, to his roof hatch, is that the top of the car hit the ground, compressed it, boom, popped out the roof hatch. Because if you saw the roof hatch and like how it's secured, I mean, we're going to add another 100 pounds to this car. This thing's going to weigh 4,000 pounds before you know it, with all this bars and we're going to add. I guarantee the roof hatch is going to be all metal now instead of aluminum. Like, this thing's going to weigh just so much. It's ridiculous. We got to have a next gen 2.0 soon. It's very flimsy. It's flimsy. I mean, we always check right before I go out that, like, make sure that this aluminum hatch device is secured. So I think that the Tupperware top popped off his roof hatch. That's my opinion.
I'm watching the video and I just can't I can't stop watching it. You know, on Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby flipped down the backstretch, you knew that, like, oh well, they blew that wreck up. They made it more dramatic than what we really crashed. They couldn't create something as exciting or crazy as that was, right? I mean, not if you couldn't drive that thing off a ramp and get more air than that car got. Yeah. And it helped. The video helps that he's going through the grass because all the grass is flying in the dirt and everything, and it adds to the
I know the drivers have been really on this for a long time, but getting rid of the grass, I guess I'm in that camp for sure. Certainly the car doesn't bite as much as it would if it was on. You know, it's not going to change it from getting air. The car is going to get air. It was going airborne way before grass. It's just the grass made it bite, and then that's when it caused it to twirl in the air.
So when it comes back down, the first couple impacts.
Yeah.
Got it.
So what's going through like your mind then when you're just sitting there, and then like, to go from that and then to a restart? Like, what's going through a driver's mind?
Well, what's going through my mind is different than what was going through the other 35 guys' mind. I was just sitting there thinking, man, I need y'all to wreck one more time because the 45 just got the lucky dog, and I'm still sitting back here just watching the race. the entire time. But at that point, I started looking at the scoreboard because obviously my interest shift into, well, what's going on? Who's going to win this race, right? Is Bubba going to get in or not? And I look in the top 4 were race winners, previous race winners from this year. And I'm like, is someone in a green, white checkered really going to win this from row 3? Probably not. I thought the odds were favorable as long as another caution didn't come. So what my thought was I took the green and I saw green lights and I'm laying back just enough to be able to avoid it if it crash happened, but I was still close enough to be able to see it out my windshield to watch the racing. And I'm just thinking, stay green. Like once it got to the white, especially, and I knew my race was over and I wasn't going to get back on the lead lap, I'm thinking just stay green and 6, push that 17 as much as you can. So, but for the competition, they put it out of their mind pretty quick. Honestly, there's not really much. They're just thinking, how are they going to improve their position or give themselves a shot to win? We know retirement might not be at the top of your mind right now, and you got a lot of things that you got to do, and it might be pushed down on your to-do list. But our new sponsor, Birch Gold, makes it really simple for you to get educated in a good way to diversify, and that's considering precious metals. It costs nothing to get educated, and there's no obligation.
Let's get more into the specifics on how our sponsor, Birch Gold Group, can help you protect and diversify your retirement savings with physical precious metals.
Because precious metals are real, tangible assets, their performance doesn't follow general economic trends lock and step. The metals are in your possession, and you don't need to be accounted for by any institutions. Because they're finite, they have unique growth potential, and many analysts believe today's prices are at a bargain. With an A+ rating with a Better Business Bureau, you're in good hands with Birch Gold. It costs nothing to get educated, and that's all we're encouraging you to do. To get your free info kit, text Denny to number 989898. There's no obligation, just fill out the brief form and they'll send you information that you need to get educated about precious metals. That's Denny to 989898.
While we're on the accident topic, let's go back to that first one real quick, the one that caused the red flag, right? The one you were in, that you were close to getting through. I know you saw the replay. What did you make of that? On how it happened and then the accident itself. Blaney's impact is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I didn't see... Did Seabell make contact with Ty, or did he just get loose?
No, he was
pushing
in the corner.
He just can't push in the corner. I mean, I think we all should know by now. You just cannot. You can't push in the corner with these cars. It's just the track is just too slick. Especially turn 4 is by far the slickest corner that we have at Daytona. I don't know why. Maybe the corner's slightly tighter than what it is off 2. I'm not sure. But turn 4 has always been the slickest corner that we've got on super speedways, and you can't push. You just cannot push as long as you're in a corner. I think if the track was 40 degrees cooler, maybe we get away with it, but the teams just have made the cars. They've got less downforce and less drag than they've had when we first came out with this car. So they're just on edge more. You know, we're putting them on the edge more with our setups and stuff like that. So, I mean, I get it. They were pushing, trying to come to the line, but it's just a stage. Like, it's not the end of the world. And yeah, you saw the 54, get pushed from the 20. So he got out of shape. And then it hooked the 12 in a, tough spot. Wow. Did you see the wall deflect?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
It's pretty incredible. We talk about the safety and all that of this next-gen car, but it's pretty incredible that this same accident more or less occurred 22 years ago, and there's a massive difference in the result.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to, equate. Are the impacts the same? Is one more than the other? Certainly, the safety innovations that come up with the Hans being the number one thing. I mean, I don't know if the Hans or the safer barriers. I would say probably the probably the Hans, but it's close. Just the head neck restraint in general has changed the game and certainly made it more safer as far as a fatal impact is concerned. But I mean, Blaney's taken some massive hits in the wall in the next gen. Lucky for us, we've got to hear him talk in an interview afterwards. So it's tough. These things are tough. I mean, his car did deflect more, certainly from the changes that NASCAR's made with the front clip to make them compress more. That certainly probably helped his impact over what the first iteration of next gen was. So it's getting better, but yeah, that's one of those worst case scenario type things where you're driving in a corner and you get sent the other way. It's a bad one.
It's also one of those wrecks we've talked about on the show a handful of times, that these wrecks are more and more coming from the front of the field.
Yep. Yeah, it's just
Blaney was leading the race.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a really long time the worst statistical place to be in the field was 7th to 8th. That typically was the first part of the wreck would get started. And as we've gone to this 2x2 type of racing with next gen, the number is like 2 and 3. It's at the front. So there is no place to hide anymore except for the very back. But if you're in the very back, you lose track position, and unless the field clears itself out, you're not going to win. And when I decided to bail, it was because I assumed the field would clear itself out to be, 10 runnable cars. That's, been pretty typical at that track in the summer race. So if it's 10 cars, then I can kind of weave my way through there and have a shot to win. But I wanted to not be part of the 26 that got in a wreck, but we never saw that extra big one that we had except for stage 1 or stage 2.
Do you ever see these wrecks and the impacts and think, man, what am I doing? Why am I out here?
Sure. Sometimes. I mean, Charlotte really did it for me. That was the toughest one that I had in next gen, probably ever. That one rung my bell quite a bit. I was really sore for a full week. I still have some lingering effects from that in my foot. So it's just, this car is brutal when it comes to those impacts, but it's what we got right now.
How close were you from not getting caught up in that accident?
I was clear. Somebody hooked me in the right rear. I was in the lucky dog position too, which would have changed the race for us. But, normally I'd be further back, but I wasn't in that moment because I was racing JJ Yaley, who I brought back to me. So we were spread out, and you constantly heard us on the radio. I'm like, I'd lost the draft because I had to come back in. He had lost the draft for whatever reason. And so he was 20 lengths behind me and falling back. I thought the best opportunity for me to not go a lap down was, I said, well, I'm going to slow down, bring him back to me, and then possibly neither one of us will go a lap down. But I don't want him to get to the pack first and blend into the pack. And then boom, he's right past me. Bam, he's the lucky dog. So I wanted to blend in the pack with him versus letting him get in the pack first. And unfortunately, he, even still being right behind me, blended, and we were side by side at the time. So we were going to be racing side by side to the line for the lucky dog, but we had to put ourselves in the middle of this storm off of turn 4, where normally I'd been the single car one lap down all day where I could lay back. I didn't, because I was actually racing someone. And I think we both where JJ finished, he must have got in the wreck because I didn't see him the rest of the race. Maybe not. But anyway, there was no lucky dog that caution, because I think all of us were in the wreck.
Yeah.
So
19th.
Oh, maybe not. He survived.
Yeah, he was running.
And he got back on the lead lap. Oh, he must have got the lucky dog then. So he must not have been in the wreck. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, because you would have got it, but because you were in the accident, you didn't get it.
But But hang on. There was no other caution to give a lucky dog.
So he must have not been caught up in that. So he got it. Maybe.
All right. Yeah, I don't know that. But yeah, it was. That's what kind of was the downfall of us. But yeah, I thought the racing was kind of predictable. There was one moment there where the field was 3x3. But other than that, we've seen these wrecks start from further up front than ever because it's too wide and you just can't pass anyone in that instance. And anyone, the reason we stay too wide is these cars have so much drag on them that if we go like the Harvick situation at the end of stage 1, if someone pulls out of that single line, it's going to kill the entire line. So, the old package that we had on super speedways had a ton less drag. Now, they had less horsepower, but they had a lot less drag. So what I think would be better is to get some of the drag out of these cars and reduce the horsepower, but then the engine builders have got to build a whole new package for 350 horsepower, whatever they were back in a few years ago. But they wanted to run the same 600 horsepower or 650 or whatever we're running. It might be 550, but they didn't want to have a bunch of different engine packages. So this is just another instance of where engines and efficiencies and cutting costs is hurting the racing product because it's just not good for competition. And so the tail is wagging the dog once again on this.
Racing season is well underway, and it's time to go full throttle. Feel the excitement of every lap like never before with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly, no matter what goes down at the track. Before placing your bets, make sure to check out Dirty Mo Dough and their DraftKings 5 bets to watch. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now with code ACTIONS. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code ACTIONS only on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Some of the more noteworthy news of the night: Bubba gets in the playoffs. We see Chris Buescher win. This is his 3rd win, so we don't have a new winner. And Bubba is the 16th and last driver in the playoffs.
Yeah, really happy for him. I know that he's been super stressed over the last few weeks, and I think this was a test. He's battle tested now. I think Bubba's he earned his spot in the playoffs. He did it through performing better than he ever has. He's getting stage points and contending more top 10s, more top 5s. So he certainly has deserved his place in the playoffs, and I'm excited to see where that 23 team goes. In the playoffs, I think the tracks actually lay out very nicely for him. But yeah, this is a big deal, and for the 17 car winning 3 races in the last 5 or 6, man, they're on a roll. They now are put themselves as the 4 seed in the playoffs, only 4 points behind us. So 3 wins for the 17 car. I mean, he's running consistent and good enough where he can make a deep run as well. So I think I listened to comments from RFK and about I think we're deep. We could make a deep run. Are we going to make the Final Four? But I think their goals have shifted. I really do. I think that at the beginning they were probably saying we can make it to the Final 8. I think that's possible. I think now they might be shifting to we can make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, they certainly have the playoff points to get there.
Yeah.
And if they continue to run consistently, I'm just so fascinated. Every race when the 17 pops up at the front of the pack, the 6 is right there behind them. I mean, it's uncanny.
Yeah. Yeah, they run together. Whatever the performance of one is, the other, that's good. That's good teamwork. That's good execution in the race shop. So, that's good to see.
Bubba, it's got to feel good getting into the playoffs, but also especially on a night that Michael Jordan is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew Michael was coming, and certainly he wanted to be a supporter. It's close to home for him. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump when you hop on the plane and be there. But it's was great for him. I saw that kind of Dwight and a couple of other guys that came with them. Ken from the Grove was there as well. All of those guys going up to Bubba and showing the appreciation and gratitude for getting that 23 car in the playoffs. It was awesome. And certainly I wanted to pay my respects as well to kind of say thank you, and he deserves it. And now go out there. You've been battle tested. You went these last 3 weeks having to go through 2 road courses and a super speedway and try to hold a lead, and you did it. So now there's only one place to go for him now. It's up. Like, he's got nothing to lose from this point forward. So I'm excited to see what happens. This is going to be an exciting playoffs. I think the field is tighter than probably it's ever been. At the request of a few friends of mine, Travis, I want to do a new segment called NASCAR 101, because when we talk about playoffs, a lot of people don't understand. If you're not an avid NASCAR fan, like, what is the NASCAR playoffs? How does it work? Well, I want to explain this, and this segment, by the way, is NASCAR 101, is presented by Birch Gold Group. And if you want to learn more about Birch Gold Group and get a free info kit, you can text Denny to 989898. So what we're going to explain is kind of, now that the NASCAR playoffs are starting, here's how it's going to work. There are 16 drivers, and we have now been seeded based off of how many playoff points we've earned through the regular season. So this is very similar to the FedEx Cup in golf, where when you win events, you go up the standings, and then you start the final event at East Lake with a lead. Now, when we get to the final, there will be no lead. There'll just be 4 drivers. So we have 10 weeks, and every 3 weeks, we're going to cut off the bottom 4 drivers in the standings. So right now, the bottom 4 is Bubba Wallace, Kevin Harvick, Ricky Stenhouse, and Michael McDowell. McDowell is -1 from the cut line, so he's -1 from the 12th position, which is Ryan Blaney. Ricky Stenhouse is -3, Kevin Harvick is -4, Bubba is -8. So Bubba started the playoffs. He starts the playoffs with 2,000 points. He's the bottom guy. The reason he's at 2,000 means he doesn't have any stage wins, which gives you 1 point. So if he had 1 stage win, he would be, he'd have 2001. And if he had a race win, he would have 2005. Each race win gives you 5 bonus points that you carry into the playoffs. So since Bubba doesn't have any and he just pointed his way in, he has 2,000 points. Kevin Harvick doesn't have a race win but has 4 stage wins, so he starts with 2004. Ricky Stenhouse won the Daytona 500. He has 2005. So that's his 5 points. And Michael McDowell has won 2 stages and a race, which is 7 total points. That's the points they have. Ryan Blaney has 2008, which is why he's 1 point up. So after 3 races, what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the bottom 3. So now we all go racing.
Bottom 4.
The bottom 4 get eliminated after 3 weeks. Then we reset the points again. So whoever makes it, so this is basically a 3-race season that we're about to have. We're going to cut off the bottom 4, then reseed them based off of the playoff points, just like we started. If no one were to win a race or win a stage in the playoffs, the points would then reset to these exact same numbers. So William Byron would go back to the top. Wherever he was, as long as he stays in the top 12, these next 3 weeks, he's going to go back to the top with Martin Truex. Now, they can earn more and add to their total that carries into each round. But, let's just say the bottom 4, these 4 guys are gone. So now Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski are now in the danger zone in the next round. Then you got to put yourself in the top 8 to make it to the next round. And then once again, make it to the final 4 for the final race. So each 3, we're cutting off 4. So that leaves 4 drivers for the final race. One thing you need to understand, though, it does not matter how many points you have if you win in a round. You are automatically going to the next round. So Bubba Wallace, let's just say, could be still 16th in points after 2 of these 3 races. But if he wins that last playoff race, doesn't matter what his points were, bam, he goes to the next round, and we take somebody that was the lowest in points or the 3rd lowest in points, he is now out. So there's a lot of different factors in this. So basically, win and you're in. You'll hear that a lot on TV. Win and you're in. Just win, and you're going to find yourself in the next round of the playoffs. I can't remember. It was 2 years ago that I didn't have a win until I won the very first race of the first round, moved on. Then won the very first race of the second round, moved on. So I really had 5 stress-free weeks. It was pretty easy. So this is how it's going to start. Just to let you know where the rankings are, William Byron has 2036. He and Martin Truex are ranked number 1 at 2036. I am in 3rd at 2025. Chris Buescher has 2021. Kyle Busch, 2019. Kyle Larson, 2017. Christopher Bell, 2014. Ross Chastain, 2011. Brad Keselowski, 2010. Tyler Reddick, 2009 points. Joey Logano, 2008. Ryan Blaney, 2008. Those are the guys in currently if we started the next round now. Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse, Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace have to dig their way out of the bottom 4 over these next 3 weeks. So we set our Final 4 predictions. I'm going to stick with what I said months ago about the Final 4. I had the 24, the 19, the 11, and the 5 in the Final 4. I don't see that changing. It definitely, the likelihood of those actually being the Final 4 is low. We always see someone in the top 8 seeds going into the playoffs stumble in the first round and not make it. Who would be your most, let me ask you this here. Who would be the most likely in the top 8 to not make it out of the first round? We have Darlington, Kansas, Bristol.
In the top 8. Well, I think for the guy, whoever this is, who doesn't make it out, I don't think it's necessarily going to be based on performance.
Nope.
It's usually something just happens.
That's right.
And looking at these
that's
8 numbers,
that's why they don't make it.
Right.
Typically, really the first round is execution based. Like, don't have any major blow ups. That's wrecks and failures and mistakes.
the eye test tells me Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I always, whenever I'm negative on Kyle or I don't pick him to be in the final, like Kyle Busch fans, they come heavy. I would not disagree with that because he has been hot and cold. I mean, the guy could win all 3 races and nobody would be surprised. Or he could have, mistakes or trouble. I think the tracks lay out too good for him to be the guy who misses in the first round. Man, Christopher Bell lived on 9 lives last year, right? He was struggling to make it in like the round of 8 and ended up making the Final 4 because he won. He kept winning because he was so far in the standings.
So Busch has 5 DNFs this year. Larson has 6.
It's interesting because when I think Kyle Larson, I don't think I don't see that.
Early in the year, I feel like he was either he won or he DNF.
He was so up and down. It's hard to imagine any of those guys not making it, right? But
yeah, but Kyle was in the same situation. Was it last year or the year prior? We went into Darlington, and did he blow up at Darlington?
I'm not hating on him, but I'm just gonna say Ross because they just haven't been strong. He doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes though. Like he doesn't get it caught up in a lot of wrecks. So that probably counters that argument.
Right.
But I would say he's been the weakest of this top 8 that I'm looking at.
For sure. But being the guy that finishes 15th is probably
that's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good enough. So you're going to go with Kyle Busch?
I'm going to pick Kyle Busch. Yep.
Sheesh. I'm thinking about the tracks. Either Larson or Ross. Only just because I don't think I'll go on the record and say I don't think any of these guys don't make it, but it'd be Larson or Ross, just simply from the performance perspective of Ross. It's just been other than, his win at Nashville was dominating, but the Larson up and down, I just think that Larson doesn't have as many playoff points as he's had in the past. So there's less room for error there.
That's interesting because you just said you're sticking to your Final Four predictions, but picking that guy is most likely to go
I
out.
also said I think they all make it. But if I had to pick one, which I'm clearly not, it's hard. I'll say Ross, but I'm wrong. I'm wrong on that. But we'll see. He's only 4 points up from the cut. I don't see any of the bottom teams outrunning Ross. I think that it's going to be tough for McDowell. There's no road courses here. He's going to need to execute really well. I love doubting McDowell because it fuels him. So I love this playoff talk. There's something to talk about here. I want to hear from social media. When you hear this clip, tell me someone in the top 8 that will not make it out of the first round. Because we've had it before, many times, I think.
What's the percentage the fans are going to say you?
35%.
What do you think of so Ross lately has kind of, everyone said like the reins have been pulled in. Do you think now that playoffs he might kind of revert a little bit back?
He doesn't need to early. I don't think so. He doesn't need to. I think he just needs to do what he's been doing. He's fine. Again, like what I say that a lot, I know. What Jared's saying is true, is that it's not going to come from lack of performance by any of these guys. It's going to come from who gets caught up in a wreck at Kansas, who gets, whose wheel falls off at Bristol and goes a couple laps down.
Yep. It's just about being consistent.
Yeah.
And just doing the little things correctly.
So, that is NASCAR 101. We talked a little bit about the NASCAR playoffs, how it works. What we didn't talk about is when we do get to the final race of the season, the 10th race of the playoffs, is it's 4 guys that are left. So when we talk about cutting 4 out every 3 races, that's 9 races. That leaves 4, and those guys will race heads up in a final race at Phoenix for a chance for a championship. And there's no handicap in it. Once they get there, they all their points are erased. Points don't matter. It's whatever driver finishes ahead of the others win the championship. And so far, you've had to win the race to win the championship so far.
I want to go
in this format.
I want to go through this driver playoff list and just pick out a few names and get your thoughts on their playoff outlook, what they may need to do to advance through each round, and how far you think that they'll go. Starting with...
All right, give me 3. Just give me 3 names, and we'll tell you why they will or why they won't.
Won't what?
Make it wherever we say. Deep in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, let's start with Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Why he will. He is consistent. He finishes very well. He's running better than he's running a career best. The best he's ever run through a full season. They're putting it all together. You're not seeing him have his big finishes, big number finishes that he's had. And let's just set the goal at the final 8 for Ricky. The why he will is he's finishing really good, and he's not having the big blow-up races that we're talking about. He's very consistent. I think that's why he will. Why he won't? Not enough stage points. I don't know that he has enough speed, or the team has enough speed to qualify in the top 5 and collect enough stage points to make it to the round of 8.
Bubba Wallace.
Let's set the goal again at the final 8. Why he will? He's the opposite of Ricky. He collects a lot of stage points. He qualifies well, and he's, you can see, I think he's finished in the low teens pretty consistently over these last 6-7 weeks. Why he won't? They fade at the end. They have to figure out how to finish better. Again, he is the polar opposite of Ricky Stenhouse. They flip-flop throughout the race. So he's ahead of Ricky most of the race, finishes behind. Ricky comes on strong at the end. So I think that would be the negative for the 23 team, is keeping up with the weekend and maintaining track position throughout a race.
The lone Stewart-Haas racing car, Kevin Harvick.
Wow. What do you want to set his goal at?
I think Final 8's probably a good number, right?
I think it probably is. I think it'd be a lot to ask that team to make it to the Final 4. If they made the Final 4, what a freaking accomplishment. I mean, that team is not, now I'm not singling out the 4 team, but the team he drives for has been struggling mightily all year long. So why he will make it to the Final 4 is he's Kevin Harvick, and he has Rodney Childers making the calls. And those two together, they don't go out easy. And even though he's only got 4 playoff points, which is the lowest, maybe it's got to be the lowest ever for that grouping of guys, I'm actually pretty freaking amazed he's got 4 playoff points, that he's won stages. I mean, I don't know. Where'd he win them? You don't know, right? Like, when's he been up front? I guess Phoenix earlier this year, right? But I just, they'll find a way because he's great, his team's great. That 4 team, they'll find a way. Why they won't? No speed. Just they don't have speed. They've shown glimpses of speed over the last few weeks or so, but man, you can't continue to just outperform all your other teammates that much. That just means there's not enough room for error in speed in your car. So I think that they execute better than anyone in the series, but if he doesn't make it, it's because this is just the slowest 4 car that we've seen since they've been together.
And one more bonus number, the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
What's the goal?
A championship.
Wow. All right, championship. Why we will? I feel I'm better than I ever have been. I've got experience. I've got the most playoff points I've had in a couple years. Yeah, probably a couple years. I think we're coming in hot. I do. I think that we're peaking at the right time. That gets us into the Final 4. The tracks lay out very, very nicely for us. Winning Phoenix, I think that our cars are better on the short tracks than they were last year. I think that was a kind of a downside to our cars. We were very fast on intermediates, just not very fast on short tracks, with the exception of the very, very short tracks like Martinsville. And I just think that this team's ready. I think our pit crew's really coming into its own. We have every piece of the puzzle together to win a championship. We need some things to fall our way, or let's just say not fall our way. Not go against us. Don't have ill-timed cautions. Don't have crazy things happen. And we absolutely have a shot to win a championship. I firmly and truly believe it, that we're better than we've ever been. Why we won't? Man, I've just been super unlucky in the course of my career. I'm the black cat of death when it comes to having bad luck when at the most ill-timed things in the playoffs, crazy things happening. But you can only knock on the door so much before eventually somebody opens it. And this is the year. Someone's going to open it.
I was about to ask, how many more times can someone tweet, "This is the year for Denny.
This
is the year."
We got it. We'll see. Well, that NASCAR 101 segment was brought to you by the Birch Gold Group. The precious metals can be a great way to diversify your savings. So learn more about the benefits with no cost or obligation. Just text Denny to 989898. Speaking of 98, their truck is in trouble.
98.
Ty Majeski.
Big trouble.
Big trouble, right? They confiscated a tire and wheel.
Somebody got, I think, a crew chief or somebody got ejected too, right?
Well, people get ejected all the time. But
how crazy is it for a tire to be taken?
I'm
they
just
found
saying,
the secret formula.
Maybe. I had heard the same thing in the Cup Series. I ain't gonna throw any teams under the bus, but I heard there was some shenanigans going on, which is why they put a new rule in that only air can be in the tire. They don't just say that out of the blue because they dreamt up somebody was doing something. They saw something that was not right, that would have been detrimental, very detrimental to a playoff team's chances. They better straighten up.
Must have picked the wrong numbers because that was not included on the why not of any of those drivers I mentioned.
Yeah.
Before we close out here, I have a review from Keegan Beck. They say, "I love the show. It's awesome to have a current driver, team owner, give his point of view week in and week out. I do have a Dear Denny question. How do you feel about being approached by fans away from the racetrack? I was at the 2022 Pro-Am Jam event in Charleston, and I saw you from afar, but ultimately decided not to bother you."
I don't mind people saying hello. You see me out. I mean, most of the time I'm out, I'm grabbing a bite to eat. I went to the Metro Diner in Daytona on race day, and for brunch, and it was filled with race fans, and they were all very polite and just said hello and good luck today. So I've noticed, like, I just want to shout out the fans that, I mean, they've been really polite to me. Like when I'm close and I'm signing autographs, and they're very nice. Like, thank you. You're very nice. You always give a shout out to the podcast, and where's Jared? Hear that about 1,000
hear that very often. No.
Yeah, you're lagging back far enough. You don't hear it. But and again, the fans on the other side of the fence that have some distance, they have some other things to say. But overall, the fan interaction's been really, really nice, and appreciate. I went to the Toyota stage for a Q&A, and man, I've never seen so much 11 gear. Gaining fans one by one.
Yeah, even the Denny Hamlin Sucks t-shirt guy was there. I
know. I appreciate him showing up. Listen, even if they don't like, they're still listening. So appreciate it. Denny Hamlin Sucks guy. He gave me the thumbs up. So back at you, buddy. And hopefully we'll have a successful Southern 500. We've won that thing 3 times. Gonna go make it 4 this weekend.
Reminder to rate, review, and follow wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to subscribe to Dirty Mo Media on YouTube. Each week we put up a couple clips, and then on Friday the full video podcast goes up.
See you guys next week.